The title says it all. Webcams suck. But the reason for them sucking might not be as obvious as you'd think. Now, ask almost anyone that knows cameras and they'll point to simple physics being the reason that webcams show mushy mugs on Zoom meetings. And they are right, partially. I mean, have you ever wondered why Apple has a 720p webcam in the M1 MacBook Air? And why the $1,600 Apple Studio display only has a 1080p webcam? Why not 4K or higher? Well, behind every camera lens is an image sensor. And an oversimplified but generally true statement is the bigger the better. But bigger sensors don't just increase the size, they increase the price. And that's the reason why you don't really see them anywhere. On one hand, laptops, they use tiny sensors because, well, they have to fit the whole webcam in a very thin case lid. But most desktops, well, they use small sensors because they're cheap. Up until the pandemic, consumers hadn't demanded good webcams. And now, in a tale as old as time, like camera makers boasting megapixels in the mid-aughts, webcam suppliers have started advertising resolution as their primary selling point for webcams. The new M2 MacBook Air has a 1080p webcam. Logitech sells many 4K webcams. And believe it or not, an increase in resolution, it actually often takes a hit at quality because a higher density of pixels on the same size sensor reduces each individual pixel's ability to absorb light. Camera nerds will often use the term pixel pitch, which measures the distance from the center of one pixel to the center of the next pixel in microns. So a smaller, lower resolution sensor can find itself with the same pixel pitch as a higher resolution, larger sensor. But as soon as you start shrinking those pixels without increasing the sensor size, well, you need to provide them with more light. And this is done in the lens assembly. The larger the lens aperture, the more light is provided to the image sensor. However, due to cost and often physical depth limitations, the vast majority of webcams, well, they just end up starving their very tiny image sensors of light, which forces the camera to increase the sensitivity, which results in the all too common noisy and grainy images that we're used to. Now, machine learning and software processing can often assist in making a lousy camera look better, but there's a limit to what the software can do, and in really bad circumstances, that's what makes smooth skin look all smooth and weird and yucky. And frankly, it's likely for this reason that Apple is releasing the ability to use your iPhone as a webcam in macOS Ventura. But we'll talk about this in a minute, because first, I need to introduce the Insta360 Link. This is a new webcam that does a lot of really cool and unconventional stuff that we'll get to, but I first want to show its spec sheet for something really important. The Link has a massive half-inch sensor, the same size that you'll find on many drones and action cameras, way larger than your run-of-the-mill webcam. And that half-inch sensor sports an f1.8 aperture lens assembly, which provides it with insane amounts of light. The end result is an image that looks better than, well, just about any webcam, save for maybe continuity camera itself. I 3D printed a MagSafe cinema display mount that I found online, and with the iPhone right next to the Insta360, I'll be darned. For someone that uses a webcam, the iPhone is great. But if you are a business professional, or an educator, or a live streamer, the Insta360 Link puts the continuity camera to shame. For one, the camera is attached to a 3-axis gimbal that allows you to control pan, roll, and tilt. With AI tracking, the camera automatically pans around the entire room to keep you in frame with 360-degree coverage. Continuity camera achieves very wide-angle 140-degree coverage, but if you approach the edges of the ultra-wide frame, you start to look a little, well, like this. Furthermore, the Link allows you to engage and disengage AI tracking with a simple hand gesture. Additionally, you can adjust user positioning, tracking speed, and frame size inside of the application. None of these things are achievable with continuity camera. And the gestures don't stop there. You can adjust zoom in and out by forming a simple L with your hand. And as soon as you release the sign, well, it stops zooming. For educators and lecturers, adding a couple of stickers to your writing surface and forming a V with your hand enables whiteboard mode, a really great way to focus the camera on what you're writing, and it also corrects perspective to help with clarity. One of the features that wowed at WWDC was using continuity camera to show a tabletop view of what's in front of you. And it's certainly a neat trick to use the ultra-wide camera for in this fashion, but due to the extreme distortion correction and much lower quality sensor of the iPhone's ultra-wide camera, this isn't really suitable for fine detail work like making out small handwriting. So, educators and engineers will be happy to know that the Insta360 Link sports a desk view mode that achieves the same thing, but because of the gimbal, the camera can actually point downwards, resulting in very little distortion correction, and you still get the same excellent image sensor to provide high-quality detail in everything you're writing down or showing off. And if you're planning to show a lot of downward-facing documents, mount the camera on its side and enable overhead mode, which shows your tabletop with perfect clarity. The Link controller software, available as a free download for both macOS and Windows, allows you to change virtually everything that you can think of. There's fine control of the camera's sensitivity, shutter speed, exposure, white balance, and more, even down to curve adjustment, which is hilariously awesome in a webcam. And you can even enable an HDR mode, one that I think looks quite nice in my office with a typically highlight-blown window. Oh, and you can also establish preset camera positions. This is handy if you have a few camera angles that you want to use with frequency, either by yourself or, say, in a conferencing situation. One position for each speaker at the table. Clever. If you're a streamer or content creator, you can actually position the camera into a vertical orientation for better viewing on mobile or to avoid the dreaded widescreen crop, which always hurts resolution. This is something that only a camera on a gimbal can achieve. And perhaps best of all, the very nice light Link controller software can be minimized into a floating toolbar to make quick adjustments or to enable features without taking up screen real estate. The front-facing noise-canceling microphones sound excellent. Frankly, as good as my studio display, if you ask me. See what I mean? They're excellent. And the hardware has nice visual LEDs to acknowledge recognition of gestures without having to look at your display. The hardware is well built. It's powered and sends data over USB-C, and best of all, it costs just $299 US. If you only use a webcam a few times a year, this will sound expensive, but if you shopped for any webcam recently, you'll know that the image quality alone bests nearly every other webcam in this price range, and when you consider the gimbal, the software suite, and the vast feature set, it feels like a downright bargain. If you're interested in the Insta360 Link webcam, please follow the link below. You will support Snazzy Labs by visiting and purchasing. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay snazzy.